All right, everybody, welcome to Coffee for Closers. Thank you for joining us. Today we're talking about the basics, the fundamentals of how annuities are made, priced, and what to watch out for, how to explain it to clients so that you don't get tripped up or mislead them in any which way. Maybe some basics, a refresher for some that have been a veteran in the business, and new stuff for any of you green beans out there taking a look. If you like what you see today, don't be afraid to like, comment, give us a quick subscribe. It all helps, and we appreciate it. Hope you enjoy. Everybody, welcome to Coffee for Closers. We've got an episode today. Very excited to have my main man, Mr. Rick Kallmeyer, in, of course, every time. Faithful co-host, talking about the breakdown of an annuity, right? Yeah. I mean, it's like we have all these conversations, deep ones, about sales plan or sales training and concepts and case design, and we get a pretty big amount of questions weekly. Mm-hmm. From our younger advisors or newer to the advisors in the business, asking questions about the basics or fundamentals of annuities, or we'll talk to them briefly and realize that they might not have as firm an understanding of how these products are priced as maybe we think they should or could have. And we end up having conversations, dialogues about it. And so we thought maybe it'd be a good idea to make a video or have one of our shows be about just the basics of how insurance companies are making their money and pricing these products. And I mean, I think it, I don't know, it's a warranted conversation, right? Absolutely. I mean, even if you have been in the business for a really long time, maybe it's been forgotten to a degree. It's easy to get attracted to, some of the hypotheticals out there, but forgetting, at least in my opinion, forgetting how insurance companies really make their money can lead you to potentially overpromise and underdeliver on your annual reviews, right? And we've talked about that in recent episodes.
I think in just general, like maybe pitching or positioning the product wrong. I think it's a very important thing right now as a lot's changing in the market, right? I mean,
very quickly,
we've got the stock market going crazy, which is what a lot of people think they base a lot of the returns on in the annuities. And then you've got the interest rate market that's going crazy, which a lot of people think they base a lot of the pricing on annuities. So making sure you have the right mindset of how, the head of the insurance company is looking at building this thing, how they're making their money, and how the moving pieces work. I think it's important as we go forward into a very questionable marketplace.
So let's start with the basics, right? Fundamentally, the way insurance companies are making money is because they know when you're going to die.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Like that is the core. They're able to buy buildings, right? To have big giant buildings in wherever city they're headquartered in. And, these PNC companies out there can't is because they know without a shadow of it, or with very limited shadow of doubt, when you are going to die, which is what they're basing and pricing their products based on, right, is when they perceive you to run out of life or your life expectancy. And PNC companies aren't going to be able to do that, right? They don't know when the next storm's coming or the next issue is going to happen with your house, and so it becomes a much more questionable game. But this, at the end of the day, is law of large numbers. They can pretty much pinpoint, and they've got all these actuaries sitting in a room coming up with basically finalizing those tables, right? And updating those. Second is bonds, right? So let's talk about that for a second. I was just kind of reading up on some of this stuff recently, but again, primarily the foundation of the product that's being placed, FIAs particularly. Let's talk about FIAs and maybe fixed annuities to a degree. Yeah. Variable, we'll leave that out. In the fixed world, the majority of this, the whole game is the bonds. They're buying bonds, particularly bonds that people can't buy, right? General public wouldn't be able to purchase. Institutional grade, investment grade bonds.
In large batches.
That are able to guarantee higher rates at shorter periods of time, right? Than normal consumers would be able to purchase, which is why you don't see financial advisors trying to do this with people's normal portfolios. It's because of their size And because of their abilities to access these bonds, that they are then able to buy these bonds that allow them to give competitive rates and still pay for their overhead and make a small margin of profit there, even on just the bonds alone. And in the fixed indexed annuity, allow them to cover maybe not profit on, say, the bond itself, right? The bond isn't going to help them make profit, but it will help them cover costs of losses on options. Right? When they buy options or purchase these options, when they don't call those options, right? When they don't execute the option, they end up paying a fee, and the bond, right, guaranteed at this higher rate, allowing them to cover some of their overhead, is now also allowing them to pay those fees when, they aren't able to, or it's not advantageous, obviously, for them to execute the option.
Yep, absolutely.
Right? You have any comments on that?
No, it's I guess both sides of it too. Another portion I'd end there is like on both sides of it, right? On the bond side of the investing as well as like on the option side of investing, there's a lot of power to moving billions of dollars, biweekly, right? So looking at like their bond portfolio, let alone even on the safer side of the bond, I guess like of the portfolio, right? Because the large majority of it is in, like you're saying, like large, well-established bonds that we wouldn't be able to get at the same rates they're getting. But even some of the smaller portion of it where they can be a little bit more aggressive on some of the debt instruments, like their mortgage-backed kind of structured investments, and some of those like more riskier bonds. A lot of those we don't have access to as well, or at the same rate than what they can get it to.
I guess
so
that's kind of my point.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not saying they're just taking S&P 500, but I'm saying just they're able to access riskier bonds with better guarantees on shorter terms, because that lowers the risk, right? When the bond is a shorter call, right?
Yeah, so it's a double-sided thing, right? It's like you're doing just like anything, right? You're doing a lot more volume, you're a lot more well-established, and that goes to an institutional level rather than like a retail level. And when you have massive amounts of dollars, right, billions of dollars earning 3 to 4%, it's a lot easier to pay out an income rider than if you were to try to, like you said, structure it yourself, right? Even if you were to like try to like match their portfolio and maybe find some stuff to the level of it, it's like you would have to invest so much more money to get a smaller return than what they'd be able to be capable of, right?
Oh yeah. Definitely. But then also at the same right, it's like they're not making all their money on these, I think there's a misconception out there that it's like, oh, well, I have this index and the cap is 4 and the market does 12. And, oh, yeah, that's where the insurance company makes their money, right? The insurance, I hear that pitch all the time, is like the market did 20, the cap was 4, they made 18%, or they made what?
Whatever,
16%. It's like, okay, 16% went to the insurance company, and a lot of clients, like, you're shooting yourself in the foot, because the client ends up thinking they're getting 16% of the return on my money. Heck no,
well,
man.
Then I'm just going to go invest in it directly.
I'm going to do that directly. It's like, no. They're taking on the risk of doing that, not fully, by buying these options in this particular index or what have you, or whatever index they're choosing to buy in. And even some are getting a little different, craftier with it, how they're doing that. But they are not even really buying or putting your money in this indirectly, right? Attributed to how this index performs. And they're saying, well, if we get to call our option, I'll pay you a certain amount here, right? Or I can give you the equivalent of this, right? But it doesn't mean that they made 20-something percent. It could mean that they made 2% higher than the 4% cap. They made 6 on that index. And they're giving you 4, and they're going to live off this 2% on the hundreds of thousands of policies that they made issue on that index or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And then, again, because they know when you're going to pass away, they're also able to know, they're able to gauge, I guess, by that. If they know when you're going to die, and they know what interest rate is guaranteed by the bonds, right, or as guaranteed as they can be, right, they're able to gauge their risk or hedge their risk with the surrender charges that are associated with the policy. So it's like, if I'm going to make this guarantee, that's why you see rates get worse as the time of surrender goes shorter, right? And so because they again they need that time, or they know they can recoup some of their institutional costs, right? Like at running the organization, the infrastructure, the whatever different internal costs that they might have, which would be many, by hedging some of that with the 8-9% surrenders earlier on, while they haven't really had a chance for their bonds to be executed, right?
Yeah.
Or the options to be executed. Right, or the bonds haven't come due or whatever, and so they play this game. It's like, okay, well, I'll recoup some of those costs, the hard costs that I have in this.
Yep.
Everything else is kind of hypothetical because I don't have to give them the interest yet. I don't have to. It's like not realized until you decide to leave with the money.
Yep.
Right, and then you decide to leave with the money. It's like, well, I need to cover whatever potential costs I have, and that's why the surrender's there. And that's a logical explanation to somebody. It's like, look, we're signing up for a 10-year game. They're taking on a ton of the risk by placing these bets, and they're doing it strategically, not to make 30% on this index potentially and give you just a handful of it, but to carve out 2% or so, and then they're going to have I feel like when you've correctly explained the potential profit for the insurance company, and again, we don't want to get in too much of weeds. This is really for the
when
clients.
you understand it, right? When you understand what's really going on, you can explain the products better.
Easily, right? Yeah. Because you don't want to confuse a client on it, but you do want to explain that it's not like, hey, look, you could just go out to the S&P 500 and get a 12% return, and you could be the insurance company here. It's like, no, that's not what they're doing. They're really trying to get 2% more and make that their profit margin on a ton of different policies out there. And again, when they realize that they're only making like 2% on this policy, they start to understand why there's this surrender charge for 10 years. It's like, this is the cost, and they need to put some sort of, it's not a liquidity feature, but they need your money to be participating in the bonds they have placed.
And again, it's not like your surrender charge moves up or down depending on how well the market does, right? So it's not a performance-based thing. It's, hey, look, you gave us $100,000. We're saying we can do these returns and pay you out on X. We need to hold that money for 10 years.
We need to hold it for 10 years.
And if we hold it for 7, I'm going to need 3% back from you, 4% back from you to make our bills make sense, right?
Yeah, to cover my costs, to make sure that, again, I'm going to have to cash out certain positions potentially to do that. I'm not going to be able to execute the options the way I wanted to execute them. Like, you've screwed the whole pooch here. And so here's the fee to doing that. And the earlier you do it, the less chance they've had a chance to capture any of those bonds or any of those options. And again, so they're passing some of the administrative costs back to you. And to be fair, it's nice that they're even giving some liquidity with a free withdrawal perspective, right? And so anyway, I guess they're hoping that they've performed well enough in some of these situations to where they, can allow you some access without dipping too much into the principal.
I think as well, you look at it and it's like, I think they're also, and this is all with insurance, right? Whether you look at life insurance, PNC, or annuities, I think they're hoping that for the one person that ends up using that 10% withdrawal, the other 99
aren't going to use it,
touch it, right?
Definitely, law of large numbers and everything.
We can kind of play with that number and say, hey, look, with the policy, with the amount of people doing this, with the way it's structured, most people shouldn't touch it and aren't going to touch it. So if we do allow this, then it should be fine. But, I think as well, it's why they've started attacking these market value adjustments on the policies to say, at least in the past, right, it's like we're not getting the rates on the bonds that we wanted or need right now. And in order to help us out in security, we're going to tack on this adjustment on top of your surrender charge,
MVAs.
right? Yeah. It's like, look, if you surrender, you're going to get hit with whatever your percent is at the time, as well as if the markets are like unfavorable to us, we're going to tack a little bit more on you because, again, you took it out against our contract, right? We had an agreement. You're going to hold it for 10 years. You took it out beforehand. Here's your surrender charge. And right now it's extra bad for us, so we're going to wax you on that too.
Yeah. Right? It was just, MVAs was definitely a source of contention for a lot of folks for a really long time, and then the things shifted, and it was very positive for the person exiting. And
now you're seeing a lot of companies be like, look, this can go really against us. We didn't expect this. It went really bad
for us. It was really great for us for a while, and now it's really bad for us while the market's been doing so well. But now, but in the same right, I had a thought there as you were talking of, it's like, okay, people need to be very cautious. It's like, let's think about how the market environment we're in right now, right? Do you see guarantees are going up? So the interest rate environment is going up. That creates a potentially favorable environment for the insurance company, right?
Yep.
So explain to us a little bit why is it that interest rates, because before you were saying interest rates maybe don't necessarily affect the annuities, but it clearly does affect it to a degree. When interest rates are going up, these products, they're able to guarantee more, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I think it's a double-sided sword.
The bonds become potentially less favorable for them.
Well, I guess there's a lot of things that are kind of moving at the same time, right? So it's like rising interest rates obviously increase your fixed rate, right?
Yep.
And especially right now when you have a rapid rise in interest rates where it becomes, again, a lot of different moving pieces, rapid rising interest rates increases your shorter duration instruments,
yep.
right? Especially when a market's doing what it is now, going down and it's volatile, right? Because all investors, especially those big institutional investors, right, the ones that get those special deals on the bonds, right, they look at it and say, do I want a 3-year bond? Do I want a 5-year? Or do I want a 10-year,
mm-hmm.
right? That's a fair question, right? What is my duration for this? I have a 10-year annuity. So logically, you'd think I'd want a 10-year annuity. The annuity will mature at the same time, maybe layer it, a 5-year and a 10-year, right? Well, when you start looking at it, and it's the same situation on the other side of the coin, right? As the rates go up, their old bonds are worth less, right? As interest rates rise, you can now go to the market and get a better bond paying a better interest rate. So why would I
buy your old bond?
So the price goes down, right? So you look at it and say, well, interest rates are rising. They're rising pretty aggressively. I know the 10-year bonds are not going to be worth that much later, so let me move to shorter durations, right?
Right.
So they moved to a shorter duration, which is great for us because, again, a lot of the fixed rates go up in products. You see that over the place now. We're getting fixed rates that are like 3 and 4%, which is fantastic in a 10-year annuity. And even the MYGAs, you look at a MYGA, you're getting 3 to 4%, like a 3-year range, 4-ish, and a 5-year range, which is fantastic.
Yep.
The other problem that happens to that, though, where it becomes more difficult, again, the other side of the sword, is as the shortest term, riskless interest rates rise, right? Your 1-year treasury.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they base the premium price of the options off of.
Right.
So they're going to say, hey, look, if I take no risk, I'm going to get it before this year, right? It's like a 50 bip return, a 1% return, something like that, right? So it makes sense for me to risk more money to get more return because if I don't risk anything, I don't get any return, right? Now that our risk-free rate's going up, it's like I don't really need to risk that much.
On the 1 year is what you're saying.
On the 1 year, right? I don't need it, and just in general, right? Like I really don't have to think about a MYGA, right? It's like, what is the risk of a MYGA?
Right.
Nothing. It's guaranteed, right? So I don't have to take any risk, and I can get close to a 4% return. And if I risk money, then I can get, what, a 6?
Yeah,
7
so why?
maybe? It's like, why, right? So you have to look at it that way when they're looking at the options, again, on the other side where the insurance companies really trying to make their money. It's like, man, now our bonds are doing well, but now it's more expensive for us to go make
the
a profit
hedge on the
right?
options, right?
So there's a lot of moving pieces to it. And to wrap it all together, really fantastic for your shorter duration stuff or your fixed rates. When it comes to like your indices and stuff, you just kind of have to watch and see what it's invested in. And how that option rate is going to kind of play out.
But again, it's like that's an easy way for them to attract people into a 10-year contract on things that, like, and this is why we're warning folks is like, look, you can see a nice 8% cap on, let's say, an S&P 500,
right.
And you're like, wow, I haven't seen anything over 3 or over 4, let's say, in a while, last 5 years.
Yep.
Like, that's really great. I've got to get my clients put into that. It's like, look how quickly we can adjust these things.
Yep.
But no, just in your certainty of like, now you understand how and what they're shooting for. They're not buying this option at, oh yeah, it's like if the market returns 8, it's like, that's not what they're going for. They're hoping for something much smaller than that.
Yeah.
And that's where they're going to call that option, right? So it's like, they're not planning for this indice to perform at 8. If it does, that potentially would mean a massive rate change down the road.
Yeah.
If it goes somewhere in that 4% range, which is where they're kind of shooting for on the options, then okay, great. That's what we kind of price this product to do. That's why you hear, this is, you hear your wholesaler or somebody talking to you and saying, this is how they price the product. This is where they've, put the coins, right? There's 100 pennies in every annuity.
Yep.
This is where it's carved out to, some to an upfront bonus, some to high cap rates, some to an income rider, some to the
liquidity, some to death benefit.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, there's only so many pennies in this, and that's what comes back to those actuaries and their building of these products is, again, they know what they're trying to hit. It's always going to try and be this 4 or 5%. And everybody, I know the comment section is going to get blown up with, oh, I got a guy with a 20% return, and it's like, okay, we'll see how they change those things for in-force policies, not maybe this year, but in the next 5 years. Like before that contract comes to term, they're going to do a reconciliation, be like, those policies we sold 3 years ago, 4 years ago, are potentially getting to a very low surrender charge, potentially could get replaced, and our rates back then were quite good. And so now we need to bring those back down because we handed out 22% returns back then and back then and back then and back then.
If we had seen a good year this year, like if January didn't start the way it would, like you would have seen all these renewal rates get cut. Like your monthly sum caps would have been shredded because last year, I mean, we had a fantastic year last year, right? If you had any kind of a close par rate or a decent par rate on it, it's like, the insurance companies, they got waxed. Your clients got a good one over on the insurance companies last year. You did well,
But again, it's just a lagging thing. Like they're not stupid.
No.
They're not going to just change rates immediately on in-force policies because that's going to disincentivize them capturing people when they could advertise an 8% cap rate, right? It's like, so I'm going to wait a couple years and then I'm going to change in-force policies for a number of years. Right. And you can be like, why is this policy not getting? Like, we got a couple questions not too long ago, and you made the good point of like, well, yeah, they're holding on to all these guaranteed income payments from 5 years ago that they have to make. And again, we're in a great place and they should be giving returns, but they're not. And it's like, why? It's like, well, no, they're just smart. And they know that they handed out some incredible guaranteed rate a long time ago and they have to pay it. And so, the policies of today are going to get worse credited.
They got to make it up on the back end somewhere, and I think we saw a lot of that transition, and it's like now good luck finding a really good guaranteed roll up income product compared to like 2012, 2013, 2010, right?
I know.
It's like everything was structured that way.
Everything shifted to accumulation,
and then everything shifted to accumulation, and
now you're seeing it coming back
like
to
a mix of it, right? I think there's a solid part, and we've kind of talked about this a lot, and I think the house always wins, right? They do a really good job of again, it's an insurance company, right? Term life insurance has been around for a long time, and it's been a well-known fact that something crazy like 90% of term policies never end up getting paid out, right? That's just the way insurance works. That's the price you deal with. For the large by most people never end up needing their car insurance except for the one time you do.
But this is income. This is different.
It's still an insurance product, right? And by that I mean it's still an insurance company controlling things.
But they only care for that 10 years. I get what your point is. But again, it's like this is your money. It's going to come to you. They're just holding on to it for 10 years and then giving it to you at some point. And by whereas that, life insurance is like it's gone. Money's gone.
By that, what I meant more is like, look, they are pricing this product. They have a team of people that are a lot smarter than you and I, sitting in a room, building these products, pricing these products to do a very specific thing at a specific rate.
And then they got people watching it.
They're watching it, and we have a really good year, then they're going to adjust to it. We have a really bad year, they're going to adjust to it because they want the client to come back, right? So it's like when you're pricing these products, and as well as I do, the best people in this business look at it and say, look, we're looking for this, right? We're selling protection. We're selling guarantees. We're selling safety. I'm not chasing a 14% return. If you get one, that's fantastic. We won. We beat the company. We're walking away with some chips on the table. But what we're looking for is principal protection and a guarantee at a good rate, blah, 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 right? And I think that's where you can look at these rates and kind of see, like, again, you're promising a 250% participation rate on something. It's like that tells me you're probably not expecting it to do well.
Yeah. Look at the context clues. Anyway, in summary, everybody, and we're trying to keep these as short as possible to get you as much good information as we can. In summary, folks, it's about understanding how the insurance company makes money, so that you don't have a client thinking that the insurance company is getting away with murder here. Again, they've priced these a specific way. Don't get carried away with specific rate offers at any one time. Remember what you're selling this for as far as safety, moderate returns. And take a look at the guaranteed rates right now. That's what this market's screaming for, is you to put some money in some guarantees and get a good guarantee of money that in 5 years will be like, man, I wish I could have guaranteed something like that. That's the shoulda, coulda, wouldas that everybody wishes on. And if you've gotten away with a great return recently, cherish it. You made money on the house. There are winners in Vegas. There's just a whole lot more of them not winning. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's it for today, I guess.
Cool.
And we'll probably do some more on annuities, maybe get into more particulars. But as far as the basic of annuities, this is how they're made. And if you have questions, comments, concerns, feel free to reach out to Megastar at any time. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you right here next time on Coffee for Closers. Take care.
What'd you have for lunch?
Chipotle.
Brown rice.
Mm-hmm.
You got chicken or pollo asado?
Steak.
Steak.
Less fatty.
Then chicken?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's true.
It is.
Really?
Mm-hmm.